very, very much for leading a beautiful Jayavada Mother prayers. So I put the Mangalacharana prayers that we recite before speaking the Bhagavatam on the board, so anyone who doesn't know them, you can just follow. We'll say them together. Narayana Namaskritya Naram
Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Jayamadiraye.
Who knows which verse this is in the Bhagavatam? Shishirada Gokulananda Ki Jai, Sri Lakshmana Hanuman Ki Jai, Shishirada Nitai Ki Jai. Who knows which verse this is in the Bhagavatam? Hands up, do you know? No one knows? You do know. Go ahead, you definitely.
115.
I go by number, sorry.
First canto 1. Which chapter? 2.
Chapter 2.
Almost, you're all very close. 4. 1, 2, 4. Okay. So we're going to do the English now. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest,
one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being,
unto Mother Saraswati,
Goddess of learning, and to Sri Vyasadeva, the author.
We'll say this together. Nashtatayeshu
Abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke
Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki.
Who knows which verse this is in the Bhagavatam?
I know that it's in first canto.
It's first canto, very good. Anyone guess the chapter?
2.
2, and I know one of the ladies knows the verse. Go, did you know that? Anyone know the verse?
13.
Anyone?
13.
Almost. Almost, you're really
17.
close. I think it's 18.
18.
I could be wrong, but I think it's 18. Okay. So, by regular attendance in classes
On
on
the
the
Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed.
and loving service unto the personality of Godhead,
Who with praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact.
So today's class is on the Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, Text 17. So we'll recite the verse. Actually, Swami, would you like to recite? You need to recite the verse. I'm not very good at this kind of thing.
Sitata patram jagraha mukta dama vibhushitam. Hold on, it's fallen over.
Okay, I'll do the rest.
Wait, it's coming up.
It needs some stabilization. Ratna dandam gudakesha priya priyatamasyaha. You just have to stand. You just have to stand there and hold it.
Sitata patram jagraha. Sitata patram jagraha. Muktadam vibhushitam. Muktadam vibhushitam. Ratnadanda gudakesha. Ratnadanda gudakesha. Priya priyatamasyaha. Priya priyatamasyaha.
Anyone else?
Sitata patram jagraha. Radhanandam Gudakesha Priya Priyatamasyaha. Sitata patram jagraha Muktadam vibhushitam Priya Priyatamasya.
Anyone else? Okay, so we'll go to the next one. So this is the synonyms. Sita Atapatram,
Sita Atapatram,
soothing umbrella.
Soothing umbrella.
Jagraha,
Jagraha.
took up.
Took up.
Muktadama,
Muktadama.
decorated with laces and pearls.
Decorated laces and pearls.
Vibhushitam,
Vibhushitam.
embroidered.
Embroidered.
Aratnadandam,
Ratnadandam.
with a handle of jewels.
With a handle of jewels.
Budakesha,
Budakesha.
Arjuna, the expert warrior or one who has conquered sleep.
Arjuna, the expert warrior or one who has conquered sleep.
Priya,
Priya.
most beloved.
Most beloved.
Priyatamasya,
Priyatamasya.
of the most beloved.
Of the most beloved.
Ha,
Ha.
so he did.
So he did.
Translation. At that time, Arjuna, the great warrior and conqueror of sleep, who is the intimate friend of the most beloved Supreme Lord, took up an umbrella which had a handle of jewels and was embroidered with lace and pearls. Please repeat. At that time, Arjuna, the great warrior
Arjuna, the great warrior
and conqueror of sleep,
and conqueror of sleep,
who is the intimate friend
who is the intimate friend
of the most beloved Supreme Lord,
of the most beloved Supreme Lord,
took up an umbrella
took up an umbrella
which had a handle of jewels,
which had a handle of jewels
was embroidered with lace and pearls.
and was embroidered with lace and pearls.
Who knows what this chapter is about? If you know the title of the chapter, that'd be great, but does anyone know what the chapter is about? Departure of Krishna from
That's the
to? Very nice. This is the chapter which describes Krishna's departure from Hastinapur to Dwarka. This just happened in Hastinapur. Why was it in Hastinapur? Why? Yes, very nice. But Krishna's been in Hastinapur after the war. He's been spending time with the Pandavas and his sister Subhadra to console them and help them to kind of recover from the trauma of the war. And now he's saying, I have to go back. They're all waiting for me. So he's going back. So just a little bit about this verse again. What's happening in this verse? What's in this chapter? We say at that time Arjuna, the great warrior. At what time? What was Arjuna doing? Does anyone know? Oh, yes, please.
It's after the war, initially when Vishnu was lamenting because he had killed so many people, and obviously he's taken counsel of Krishna, and because everyone's also hurt that Krishna's also leaving now, going back to Dwarka after having spent time with them, they're all very remorseful. So one by one, they are lamenting in their own way as Krishna is leaving, and they're trying to stop him to stay. So Arjuna is obviously now picking up an umbrella to shade Krishna.
Okay, very nice. You brought in some more details that what's happened in Hastinapur is that Vishnu was leaving his body. Yudhishthira went and got instructions from him, and now they know that Krishna is going. They're all really upset, and in this moment of lamentation, Arjuna is taking an umbrella. Did I understand you correctly? That was very, very close. What's happening on this verse, because it's a story, what's happening with this verse is now Arjuna, Krishna is on his chariot, and the Pandavas get on the chariot with him. And Arjuna is holding the umbrella over Krishna's head on the chariot, because they accompany Krishna for many miles. And then finally Krishna says to them, you've got to go back. But Arjuna's on Krishna's chariot as Krishna's leaving Hastinapur, and Arjuna's holding up the umbrella to shade the Lord from the hot sun. So that's what's happening in this verse at that time. At the time they're all on the chariot, getting ready to go. So let's carry on. So now we're going to go to the purport. Actually, this is a really short purport, which is fantastic. It means we can all think about it and express what we understand Prabhupada to be saying. This is the entirety of the purport. No, it's there's two. I've got two slides, which has got the purport in. So that's pretty much it. So let's read the purport. Gold, jewels, pearls, and valuables. By the way, after I've read this, please, we've got it up there so you can think. It's really important that when we hear Prabhupada's teachings, we don't just listen kind of passively. We don't take anything in it. The medicine doesn't work. This is the medicine. Bhagavatam discussion is the medicine for the heart. And if we just listen passively, the medicine doesn't work. So we really have to engage with the subject. So I'm going to read this slide, and then I'm going to ask you to throw out your suggestions. What is being said in the slide? Not your comments, just repeat in your own words points that you've heard in this slide. Okay? So we'll read it. Gold, jewels, pearls, and valuable stones were used in the luxurious royal ceremonies. They are all nature's gifts and are produced by the hills, oceans, etc., by the order of the Lord, when man does not waste his valuable time in producing unwanted things in the name of necessities. So I'm going to start with the ladies because they're not used to speaking. Ladies, can you tell me some of the things that you hear in your own words in this part of the purport? Go ahead. Did you want to say something? No? Oh, you were just fidgeting. Okay. Any ladies? Gopi?
So I understand that all these precious jewelries, precious stones and jewelries that we have are given by nature, and nature has created them when Krishna has Krishna has told nature on his
Okay.
own.
Very nice. You're saying when Krishna orders, nature provides all these natural opulences like gold and jewels. Did I understand you correctly? Any other lady? One more for you? Go ahead.
When we're not being greedy, and we're not like chasing after things that we don't really need, by the grace of Krishna, we just get everything we need naturally.
Wow, really nicely put. Before I reflect back, can anyone just help me bring this a little bit closer to me because I'm having to go this way to get in front of the mic. Thank you. So, is that happening? Very nicely understood. You're saying Krishna orders nature to provide these things for us when we're not being greedy and chasing after things that we don't really need. If we're being greedy, then Krishna doesn't order nature to give these things, only when we're not being greedy. I understand you. Excellent. Do the men have anything they'd like to add? Or we'll get the men to the next slide, because I think that pretty much covers it. So we'll read this and we'll get the men to repeat what are the things they're hearing. By so-called development of industrial enterprises, they're now using pots of gutta percha, instead of metals like gold, silver, brass, and copper. They're using margarine instead of purified butter, and 1/4 of the city population has no shelter. So some of the men, what you're hearing, just what Prabhupada is saying, but in your own words. Andres, you want to have a go?
So they're saying here that nowadays, because of the industrialization in the world, the man tends to use more sort of waste, I would say, instead of precious gold and valuables, and they're losing that sort of the value in what they produce, and lots of people now in the cities, they don't have nowhere to live, so they don't really, they become more careless, I would say.
More?
Careless. In
Careless.
terms of what they do and how they do it.
Yeah. So you're saying that nowadays we don't have the opulent things. We have to use poor substitute waste, you said. And even people are hopeless. She said that they're careless. I don't know what you meant by they're careless.
Well, I mean, when they're producing it, when they don't care about what they do, how they do it, and then they offer it. So they just, I want to get it done and sell it, and I don't care afterwards.
You're saying our Ukrikama is very careless. We don't care the effect we're having on the environment and on the quality of people's lives. We're just creating this ugrikam of these industrial industries, and the consequences are terrible. But the industrial magnates, or whatever, the big guys who are making the money, they don't care what the effect they're having. Understand it? Please.
Just on that last point, because by nature's arrangement, everyone's getting a fair amount. But with industrial enterprises, it's just the fat cats, the big men get in there. They probably use gold and silver and nice butter, but everyone else, there's no jobs and they're using all.
So you're reinforcing Andres' understanding of this. You're saying that the industrial leaders are irresponsible about everyone else. They're just fat cats. They're just greedy. They just want to create more wealth for themselves, and everyone else is suffering. Everyone else is having to live in kind of like poverty because some people want everything. Yeah. Well, I think you did a very nice understanding of the purport. There's one. Prabhupada says when we read his books, we should do it in two phases. There's a lecture I was listening to, which is on the Improving Our Sadhusanga web page. Just a little plug for that page. And Prabhupada says, now you have heard, now what? You should ask, what is Swamiji saying? And do I have any questions? Do I agree or no? He said, do I agree or disagree? And if I agree, if I disagree, why do I disagree? And he said, if you discuss like this, very quickly you will see that faith develops in your heart. So we're going to do that. We've done an understanding. We've said what Prabhupada is saying. He's telling us that Krishna will instruct nature to provide us all kinds of valuable things when we're not greedy and engage in producing unwanted things in the name of necessities. And he says, then he gives some examples in the next verse, in the next slide, of how we become poorer as a result of this ugrikama, as a result of these industries. He gives some examples. We don't use gold and silver anymore. We use plastic or this other kind of cheap metal. We don't use butter anymore. We use margarine. We don't even have, sufficient land for building houses. People are 1/4 of the population is on the streets. I think Prabhupada is pretty accurate about this. So we've done an understanding. Now I'd like to raise a question. The question I want to raise is, what does it mean, this phrase, unwanted things in the name of necessities? I want to look at that phrase. Because if we just give up this, chasing unwanted things in the name of necessities, we will become prosperous. So what is meant by unwanted things in name of necessities? Can anyone give me examples?
Like we want to accumulate things which are not required. For example, all this industrial complex is not at all required, because human beings require eating, food, and some shelter and clothes. It's all necessary.
Very nice.
Everything else is unnecessary actually. So when we have those things, nature automatically gives everything that required, and more than required.
You're saying all the industries today, they're creating things we don't really need. We just need to eat and have shelter. We need to have protection, some cover and some food. That's all we need, everything else. Give me examples of things that we consider necessities. We can't live without them. We would think, if I was to say, I'm going to take that away from you, you have to live without it, you'd say, oh my God, how can I possibly live without that? But it's really not required. Did you want to say something? And then, ladies, you've got to come up with some ideas too.
I guess modern technology is an obvious one, like computers, phones.
Computers, we could live without it. Prabhupada says if it's going to be there, we'll be like the snake in the hole. We'll try to use it for Krishna. Computers aren't necessary. Ladies, give me an idea of something you're really attached to. You think you can't live without it, but it's an unwanted necessity. Go ahead. Dishwashers. We don't really need dishwashers. We could live without them. They used to live without them for years. Tumble dryers, yes. And something you all probably have on you right now, including me. what is it we all carry around with us as our very best friend? It's like it's the only thing we ever talk to anymore. Mobile phones, unwanted that. Do you know how much is used in these updates every year? How many of these mobile phones go into these landfills? And it's like they're a crazy disruptive industry, mobile phones. So yes, so these are some things in the name of, unwanted things in the name of necessities. And I want to look at this a bit more. If you ever do a database search on Prabhupada's books, some other phrases he uses to talk about this is unnecessary necessities. So here he's used the phrase unwanted things in the name of necessities. Sometimes he uses the phrase unnecessary necessities. And sometimes he uses the phrase unwanted necessities. So I put next to each of the phrase in little brackets how many hits I got looking at those. So I got 15 hits for unnecessary necessities and 5 hits for unwanted necessities. So I just wanted to look a little bit about, we've discussed what is meant about this, but we've given some examples. I would like to discuss a little bit more what is meant. So depending on the modes of nature that predominantly influences us, because until we're liberated souls, all of us are predominantly influenced by one or more of the modes of nature. So depending on which mode of nature is predominantly influencing us, the unwanted necessities will take different forms in our lives. So can you think of ways that someone who's predominantly influenced by the mode of ignorance has unwanted necessities? What kind of unwanted necessities is someone who is predominantly in the mode of ignorance going to be attracted to? I can't live without it. Cake. Overeating. Yes. Oh my God, I know that. Cake. Okay, overeating. We're going to put to overeating. Eating things which are not good for you. Yeah? Drink alcohol.
Intoxication.
Excellent. We can't live without the alcohol. Thankfully, I've given that one up. Ladies, any other things about unwanted necessities for someone who is predominantly influenced by the mode of ignorance? Huh? TV? Yes, TV and all kinds of, idle time wasting. So like me, I got rid of the TV because I'm addicted to it, threw that out, but then it replaced itself with novels. Okay, threw that out, and now it's replaced itself with YouTube videos. So it will take different forms. But this addiction to time wasting and asatsanga, it's a very tamagun addiction. I can't do without my hit of asatsanga. It's very time wasting. Any other things? Very nice, ladies. You took the words right out of my head. Oversleeping, yes. So oversleeping, overeating junk foods, idle time wasting, and asatsanga. These are some of the things that those of us who are predominantly influenced by the mode of ignorance are going to be struggling with. And there's, first, I have to say personally, I am struggling with all of these things, How about mode of passion? You may not be a mode of ignorance person, you may be a mode of passion person. So how does mode of passion addict you to unwanted necessities? Go ahead. Spicy food, okay, very nice. That can damage your health, by the way. Anyone else? Mode of passion, come on, what is someone in mode of passion really busy doing?
Going to seminars on how to get rich quickly.
Yes, focusing all their attention on how to make more money.
Go to the gym a lot.
Pumping up, get those muscles. Yeah, not just for health, because some of us actually need to do a little bit of work on our bodies to keep our bodies erect and health, but this is over and above, this is pumping up. I'm going to go to the ladies first and I'll come back to you. I'm going to try to get them to talk because they don't talk. Okay, mode of passion. How does mode of passion influence us to do unwanted necessities? Getting angry. But is that do you think that's mode of passion? Getting angry? I would have thought it would be mode of ignorance, but it could be mode of passion. Anyone else? What do people who are mode of passion? They're driven, getting money. Huh? Fast cars. Possessions. Do we want more possessions? Actually, you just speak someone over there. Fashion, yes, we spend so much money on how we look, and again, the fashion industry is really destructive on our environment. It destroys the rivers and environments of many people in the countries that we make the clothes in. So, other things is social status. We're so busy pursuing social status, position, wealth, acquisitions, and when we waste time, whether we're in the mode of ignorance, pursuing idle satsanga, or sleeping or eating, or we're in the mode of passion, we're pursuing wealth and position and status and acquisitions, we're eating into our time. So we have very little time left for the most important thing in life, which is spirituality. To inquire about the absolute, to hear from the pure devotee, to hear and discuss Prabhupada's teachings, to chant our rounds, because we're so busy wasting time. So, this actually brought us to the second question on this. Why doesn't Krishna want us to pursue these things? So I've just told you the answer. Why doesn't Krishna want us to pursue this unwanted necessities?
We're wasting the time.
Pardon?
We're wasting the time. Wasting the time of our life.
We're wasting the time. How should we be using that time?
To pursue, to read about Krishna.
To inquire about Krishna. We should be. Would you like to say more? Thank you so much, Madam.
Also because it won't make us happy in the long term.
Yeah, it won't make us happy. And we're wasting time from doing the thing that will make us happy. So what's the solution? I mean, I know I'm one of these people who is trapped by my addictions to unwanted necessities. There's a reason it's called necessities, because we're addicted to these things. It's really hard to give them up. We start getting like shivers and shakes when it's taken away from us. So how are we going to get rid of these things without going into withdrawal symptoms? That's the big question for me. So, I don't know if this is big enough. It is big enough for you to read. Great. Would someone like to... I'm going to try to find solutions. How we can get rid of these desires for unwanted necessities without having severe withdrawal symptoms and falling down. So would anyone... I'll read it. You can read it in your mind too. Engage with the subject matter, okay? Don't be a passive listener. The Vedic civilization teaches that, quote, be satisfied with the minimum necessities of life. Don't increase unnecessary necessities of life. And then you have to work for it very hard, like hogs and dogs. That's all. Then you have to work very modern world. They have increased their unnecessary necessities of life, and therefore you'll find how hard-working in European and American cities we have seen how people are working very hard, beginning from morning at 5 o'clock till 4 o'clock next night for sense gratification. So this is not civilization, this is condemned civilization. Actually, this is not answering the question, this is just an evidence to support the answers that were already given about why Krishna doesn't like us to do this. It's because we're wasting time. We're just spending all our time working hard.
I was wondering, does he really want us to get rid of all these things, or does he really want us to use them in a sensitive way? Because
Okay.
there's like things like the computer, for example, or even the mobile phone. Like sometimes I'm cleaning my house and I'm listening to Audible and I'm listening to a book of like Krishna Dharma, like the Mahabharata, and I'm like listening about the Lord, and I'm cleaning my house. So it's just how to learn and how to use them in a sensitive way that bring us benefits, spiritual benefits that would
Madam
not.
Joy, it's a really good question you're asking, but I'm going to ask for a pause in questions until we go through the subject. And then at the very end, I'll bring in, I'm going to ask a question to lead the class I've prepared, and questions from the floor, I'll ask at the very end, if that's okay. It's such a good question, so don't forget it, keep it there. If you forget it, I'll remember it for you. So these are some more evidences. Let me see what this evidence is for. Nayam deho deha vajam nirloke kastan kaman arhate vid bhujam ye. So that's from the Bhagavatam 551. Lord Rishabdev told his sons, my dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard, day and night, simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal, blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. So these are some more evidences about why Krishna doesn't want us to engage in cultivating unwanted necessities. You know, this is a quote from Rishabdev telling his sons, don't waste your life like hogs and dogs. It's not going to give you the happiness you're looking for. Use that time to give you that which will make you blissful. And it specifies austerities and penance and austerities. So what are the penances and austerities that we aspiring Vaishnavas should be focusing on? Waking up early. Yeah. Is that something we enjoy doing? Oh, it depends. If you're in a mode of goodness, you enjoy it. If you're in a mode of ignorance and passion, do you enjoy doing it? No. Okay. So I don't mean ignorance here. So doing the things we don't enjoy doing because Krishna likes it, that's an austerity. Shishirada Gokulinanda ki jai, Sitram Lakshmanaman ki jai, Shishikonitai ki jai, Shobhanabha ki jai. Yeah, so doing things like getting up early in the morning, which we don't enjoy doing, but we do it because Krishna likes it, that's an austerity. How about an example of penance? I'm going to give you a clue. Penance is doing things we don't like doing because Krishna likes it. Can you give me an example, ladies?
Fasting.
Huh?
Fasting.
Fasting. Yes. Fasting. We don't like doing it. I mean, some of us don't. If you happen to be in the mode of goodness, you might love it. But those of us who struggle with the modes of ignorance and passion, it's a struggle. But we do it. Why? Because Krishna likes it. So,
giving up material comforts.
Giving up material comforts.
Like opulent sleeping arrangement or like certain types of clothes or whatever.
Yeah, and living simply, giving up the fashion and the furniture, living simply. So these are examples of penance and austerity that Lord Shabda said you have to embrace that. You have to do the things you don't necessarily like to do because I like you to do them. You have to give up the things you really like to do because I don't want you to do them. If you do this, you'll achieve eternal bliss and happiness. So, what should now, this is the question I originally asked, we're going to start getting some evidences to help us solve this conundrum. What should we do if we're attached to unnecessary necessities and have little or no inclination for penance and austerity? I'm giving the class I need to hear. I have very little appetite for penance and austerity. It's a struggle for me. Can anyone relate to that? Am I the only one? Oh, good, thank you. I'm glad some people relate. So what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do if I'm not naturally in the mode of goodness and I'm not naturally inclined to penance and austerity? I'm going to give some evidences and then we can bring in other thoughts. But let's look at what Prabhupada says, yeah? So this is from the Bhagavatam 11:12, 1-2. Okay? And this takes up 2 slides. So let's read the first line. Please read it with me. You know, engage with the quotes, engage with the evidences. Prabhupada said we should be like lawyers. Whenever we try to discuss subject matters, we should base our discussion on the evidences of Shastra, not on our own opinions. We should go back always to Shastra like lawyers, speaking from the law books. So this is Canto 11, 12, 1-2. And it spans 2 slides. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Uddhava, by associating with my pure devotees, one can destroy one's attachment for all objects of material sense gratification." Yes! So, if we have addictions to different kinds of sense gratification, whether it's in the mode of ignorance or it's in the mode of passion, it's just the same thing in different guises, what should we do according to the evidence? We should associate with what? With the pure devotees. And does anyone know what associate with pure devotee? I'm going to give you evidences for this, but just I'm curious, does anyone know what it means to associate with pure devotee? Does it mean sit next to him on the outside? Or can like, serve? What does it mean to serve?
He said it here.
Hear. That's it. There's a quote. I haven't got the quote yet, but it's on my webpage. To serve the pure devotee means to hear from him. That's it. To hear. We have to hear from Prabhupada. There's pure devotee and there's pure devotee. I'm going to show you evidence. It talks of the kind of pure devotee we have to hear from if we want to become free of these addictions we have to unwanted necessities. And the next slide is part of the same verse, 2 verses, and it tells us what things will not help. Don't bother wasting your time, because it's not going to get you free of these addictions. So let's look at what's not going to help. Such purifying association brings me under the control of my devotee. One may perform the Ashtanga Yoga system, engage in philosophical analysis of the elements of material nature, practice non-violence and other ordinary principles of piety, chant the Vedas, perform penances, take to the renounced order of life, execute sacrificial performances and dig wells, plant trees and perform other public welfare activities, give in charity, carry out severe vows, worship the demigods, chant confidential mantras, visit holy places, or accept major and minor disciplinary injunctions. But even by performing such activities, one does not bring me under his control. So I don't know how many of these we all focus on, but I'm not having to go brahmacharis and sannyasis. But one of the things here, it says, even, what is it? Even,
Take to the renounced order.
Accepting celibacy, it says, even that.
Renounced order, yeah.
Yeah, even giving up that. Anyway, nothing's going to work, basically. We may work hard, we may, do extra vows, and we may go on pilgrimages, and we may grit our teeth, but it's not going to take away the addiction we have to these unwanted men. What's going to take away the addiction, ladies? Did you hear the last line? What did it say? What was it? Association with pure devotee. What does it mean to associate with pure devotee? Does it mean what to sit next to him? To hear him. That's the only thing that's actually going to cure our heart disease. It's the only medicine. Let's look at some other thing. So I did mention this. What is meant by pure devotee in this context? Because in one sense we're all pure devotees. Prabhupada said about his disciples, and I'm sure it includes his grand disciples. When someone asked, where are the pure devotees? He said, all my disciples are pure devotees. So there's pure devotee and there's pure devotee. But let's look at what kind of pure devotee association is going to do the job of curing our heart disease. So this is an evidence from Bhagavatam 1.5.34. The summary is that one has to first of all seek the association of pure devotees who are not only learned in the Vedanta, but are self-realized souls and unalloyed devotees of Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. That's the first step. We have to seek this. So seek their association means what? To hear from them. Hands up if you fit this bill. If you are this caliber pure devotee, learned in Vedanta, hands up. Anyone learned in Vedanta? Okay. Self-realized souls. Do you know your relationship with Krishna? Okay. Unalloyed devotees of Lord Krishna. Okay, so we don't hang out necessarily. We hang out with each other, but for a different reason. To help each other to hear the devotee who has these qualifications. So the thing that comes up in my mind, I don't have these qualifications. I'm quite new. I don't even know all the verses of the Gita or the Bhagavatam, when to speak of Vedanta. How am I going to identify this person? How am I going to find this person? So, this is a lecture with Prabhupada speaking. Please read the evidence with me. I am therefore so much laboring hard that we, before my leaving this body, I may give you some books who you can enjoy. He doesn't say that, who. Some books, who you can enjoy after my death. So utilize it. Read every shloka nicely. Try to understand the meaning. Discuss amongst yourselves. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. That is our mission. So Prabhupada, out of his great kindness, being our founder Acharya, the Guru, the Jagat Guru, has left his association for us in his books. And he's telling us, my mission and the mission of our ISKCON society is to encourage and support people in not just reading the books, but trying to understand. And he gives us a clue how we can begin to understand. He says, discuss amongst yourselves. Don't be a passive listener, a blind follower. Don't just accept someone else's interpretation. Engage with the subject matter. You may disagree with my interpretation. That's fine. But engage. That's why we have the key difference between a human body and an animal body. They eat, sleep, make, defend, perform like that. We eat, sleep, make, and defend. But their brain doesn't have a capacity to engage with this subject matter, nor to understand it. Our brains, including women's brains, because we're in the human life, our brains have the capacity to engage with the subject matter and understand it. Okay. So, some other evidences. Now, oftentimes, when I encourage devotees, please discuss Prabhupada's books, they say, well, what if I'm not understanding it? What if I don't understand the books? I mean, they're pretty hard. I find them really hard just to lie back and read them. I can't, after a paragraph, I'm thinking, what did I just read? They're really hard to understand. So I'm going to look at some evidences where Prabhupada tells us what we can do to make them easier to understand. Okay, first of all, this is an evidence to kind of reinforce the idea that they are hard for many of us to understand. Many of us are going to struggle to understand. So this is an evidence that supports that. This is from Bhagavatam 1.3.44. Simple hearing is not all. One must realize the text with proper attention. The secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But somehow or other, if someone hears with rapt attention from the right person at the very beginning, one can assuredly see Lord Krishna in person in the pages of the Bhagavatam. So the key thing is, when we hear Bhagavatam from the right person, that topmost devotee who has learned at Vedanta, has self-realized, knows his relation with Krishna, and is an unalloyed devotee, when we hear from that right person, we have to hear with rapt attention. Okay, be honest. Hands up if you're hearing in this class, not with rapt attention. How many, okay, we'll do it the other way. How many people's minds how many of you find your minds wandering to something else and then coming back? Yeah, we don't hear with rapt attention. And Prabhupada is saying, you're going to find it impossible to hear with rapt attention. So we come to morning Bhagavatam class, and maybe we're even good enough to come to evening Gita class and do the whole sandwich, because they really are a sandwich. But are we hearing with rapt attention? If we're not hearing with rapt attention, the medicine doesn't work. So I remember when I first read this with rapt attention, it really struck me. I thought, well, what is the solution? How am I going to get freed? I don't want to live my whole life gritting my teeth and falling down and pretending I'm not. How am I really going to get free? And I was in a conundrum, because I think, well, the medicine's not going to work on me. I'm not hearing with rapt attention. What's the solution? Now we get to an evidence, which I heard, which really changed things for me in my spiritual life. This is a lecture. I happened to be listening, not listening with rapt attention, doing my business. And then suddenly, out of everything Prabhupada was saying, this sentence came and hit me, just like, listen to this. And it's like, whoa, thank you, Prabhupada. So let's read what Prabhupada said that really impacted me. I hope it will impact you. Generally, people cannot understand. Yeah, that's me. But if one understands, he becomes liberated. If some way or other, how, Prabhupada, how? It is not very difficult. Simply we have to associate with devotees and discuss this literature. Then we will understand Krishna very easily. And I'm going to show you evidences where Prabhupada talks. He says this association to discuss, this is called Sadhu Sangha. When we come together and have prasada and talk about the latest gossip in the temple or whatever, that is not Sadhu Sangha. That is not. We may all be sadhus, but we're not doing Sadhu Sangha. We may go together and play football, that is not Sadhu Sangha. You know. Sadhu Sangha is when we come together and discuss this literature. That is Sadhu Sangha. Not when we come together and listen passively, when we come and discuss it. And Prabhupada, I'll show you evidences. Prabhupada says this is called Istagosti. So we have the class, but the class is not enough because what are you all doing? Are you interacting or are you listening passively? Anyone? Passively. This is not going to help you. Prabhupada, and I'll show you the evidences. Prabhupada says there must be Istagosti. Istagosti is when we come, small groups of devotees, and discuss what we've heard. Then the medicine begins to act. Otherwise, the medicine is not connecting with us. So, a few evidences. I don't know why I put this evidence. This is the difference. Oh yeah, I've got this evidence here to show you the difference between a lecture like this and a discussion. A discussion is when everyone gets to speak, and that requires small groups because too many people speaking is going to go nowhere. So this is an evidence of support to show you the difference between a discussion and a lecture. About Krishna, if you hear and speak, it is automatically punya shravana kirtana. As it is said, shravanam kirtanam Vishnu. So what you're doing right now is just shravana. But you have to hear and speak. Then it's shravanam kirtanam. The speaking part is the kirtanam part. And that doesn't happen in a passive lecture. It happens in Istagostis. I will show you evidences. So when we do the two together, the shravanam and the kirtanam, the hearing and then speaking, and I'm going to show you evidence what we should be speaking, not just anything that comes to our mind, but when we're hearing and speaking, then the medicine begins to work. So here, what we should be speaking when we hear. To hear and explain them is more important than reading them. One can assimilate the knowledge of the revealed scriptures only by hearing and explaining. Hearing is called shravanam and explaining is called kirtanam. The two processes of shravanam and kirtanam are of primary importance to progressive spiritual life. Why, we have discussed this in this class so far, why are they of primary importance to progressive spiritual life? Ladies, why are these two together, Shravanam and Kirtan? What is the question we're trying to answer? Why are they of primary importance?
Because they let us understand the message of the pure devotee.
Yes, but why is that important? Remember we talked about unwanted necessities, addictions we have?
By associating with a pure devotee, we can get rid of material.
Yes. When we do this hearing and speaking, we'll get free of our addictions and we'll begin to experience the bliss and happiness. It takes time, but it's the only medicine. And if we don't do this hearing and speaking, we may spend 60 years and the addictions aren't gone. They're still there. So for a devotee, here's another evidence. We're talking about Istagosti. For a devotee, there is no point in making friendships with ordinary persons. He should make friendship with other devotees so that by discussing among themselves, they may elevate one another on the path of spiritual understanding. This is called Ishtagosti. That's why we come and live in a temple, or hang around a temple, so we can make devotee friendships. Why? To talk about the latest gossip, the latest rumors, play football? No. Because like-minded people, you're more likely to find someone who want to discuss the purports with you, or want to discuss the morning class with you, or whatever. And that, when you come together in small friendship groups, that's called Ishtagosti. And it's absolutely required for the medicine to work. Okay, by the way, anyone who's in charge, tell me when to stop. I've got more evidences, but I have got my point across, so if I'm overgoing my time, just let me know and I'll stop. 10 more minutes, okay. So these are more evidences that this is the only thing that's going to take away these inauspicious things from our heart. This is Canto 11, 331 verse. The devotees of the Lord constantly discuss the glories of the personality of Godhead among themselves. Thus they constantly remember the Lord and remind one another of his qualities and pastimes. In this way, by their devotion to the principles of Bhakti Yoga, the devotees please the personality of Godhead, who takes away from them everything inauspicious. So what are the inauspicious things that the Lord takes away? These addictions we have to unwanted necessities. These addictions we have, whether in the mode of ignorance, to time wasting, eating junk, overeating, oversleeping, acquisition, wealth, status, power. These addictions we have, the Lord will take it away from our heart. If we do what? Men. If we do what?
Hear and discuss.
Hear and discuss.
And explain.
And explain. Explain is part of the discussion process. When we hear something, we have to speak. We have to repeat what we've heard. And then in other evidences process, now you've repeated, now ask, do you have any questions? And then when you've done the question bit, you've clarified, how does this help me in my life? How can I apply this knowledge to my life? That bit of the discussion has to be there. What difference is it going to make to me in my life? How will I change, even in small, realistic ways, based on what I've heard and understood? And if we do that, how are these inauspicious things going to go from our heart? It's right here. How will it go? How will it just magically disappear? We'll lose interest? How? It says it there. I think I've underlined it. Ladies, someone? Krishna will take it away. I know that we're meant to be chaste and shy and quiet, but you have to find association, ladies, where you speak. Where you speak and repeat what Prabhupada is saying. Otherwise the medicine won't work on our hearts. You have to find your small friendship groups or some way of getting the courage to speak and repeat what you've heard. So someone, have the courage. How will these things go away from our heart? How does it happen? Krishna will take it away. Yes. Why does he take it away? Well, it's said up there. Yes, that's true, but it says it's inauspicious. And it says the devotees please the personality of Godhead. Because he becomes pleased when we discuss these purports. He likes it. When he likes what we're doing, he'll take away the inauspicious things from our heart. This is how we please him. Okay, tell me when to stop. I've got to make my point, but I've just got more evidences. Okay. Actually, I can stop now because I've made my point. There are more evidences, and I can open it up to discussion if you like. So I'm going to just ask for a show of hands. Would you like me to show you more evidences, or would you like me to stop and give you 5 minutes for saying the things you want to say? Show of hands if you want more evidences. Show of hands if you like more evidences of 2. Show of hands if you want me to stop and you'd like to discuss what you've heard. Oh, okay, more people like me to stop. So I'm going to open it up to you. Anyone who wants to see evidences, I can send you the PowerPoint to you with all the evidences. So if you'd like to make any comments or questions or... yeah?
I just have a question in terms of discussion. Do you think discussing service is on the same level as discussing Shastra?
Do I think discussing service is on the same level as discussing Shastra? Do you have a light? on your own question. Okay. I don't think anything. I try not to come up with my own ideas because my own ideas are generally quite wrong. What I've heard from Prabhupada says service, to hear from the pure devotee is to serve him. There is an evidence like that. I may have it here. Let me see. I don't know if I've got it here. But I don't know if I've got it on the web page. So from what I've heard, it's hearing the Bhagavatam and the Gita and the purports of the topmost devotee. That is service. And there is a purport, 215 Bhagavatam. The Prabhupada says this hearing and chanting is applicable for anyone, whoever it may be. And by this method, whatever you're doing in your life, whatever it is that destiny has engaged you in, will also become devotional service. And there's a lecture, which I have on the webpage I'm going to show you. This is the webpage I'm trying to promote, by the way. That if you engage 24 hours in service, so-called temple service, but you're not hearing, your service becomes fruits of activity. So I'm not saying we should discuss service, but as far as I understand, discussing service shouldn't replace discussing Prabhupada's books. That has to be there. That's our ISKCON sandwich, morning and evening. And hopefully it needs to go in between. I'm just going to the ladies have, and then I'll come back to you. Ladies? Anyone? Okay, please go ahead.
I was going to ask, I don't know whether it's just me or maybe it's an English thing, but whenever we tend to discuss something, I always feel the need to get to the point. So like I'm always sort of looking for sort of like, what's the message of this thing that we're discussing, or what's sort of like the core principle or the thing that I need to learn from whatever it is that we're talking about. So get to the nitty-gritty and get to the point. I don't know whether that's an English thing, maybe due to our language. Some other languages around the world, they have like it's a broader spectrum of vocabulary, so they can sort of philosophize about whatever it is that they're discussing more and explain it in more sort of flowery way. But me personally, I just was like, well, okay, what's the point of what it is that we're discussing, and which kind of eliminates the whole discussion aspects of this. So I mean, what would you sort of like advise in terms of how to understand the eternality of these like pastimes and these books to get to understand that we just constantly discuss them. We don't just sort of look at part of it, get the message, and stop talking about it. Because that's something that I would be drawn to.
Wow, very nice. Very pertinent question. Questions which deal with what difference does it make to me, or how can it help me, are really good questions. So that's very nice. You're saying that, your mentality, and possibly it's an English mentality, you just want to get to the point. Krishna's Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, I know that. I'm a spirit soul. Chant Hare Krishna. I've got that. It leaves very little else to discuss. It's like, okay, I got the point. And you're saying other people tend to be, like to fill it out a bit, waffle, fill out the waffle a bit. And you're saying, but if you like to fill out the waffle, you've got something to discuss. If you just want to get to the point, you've got the point. End of discussion. Bus. And you're saying, how am I going to keep discussing if my tendency is just get to the point and cut out the waffle? Did I understand you correct? I have this webpage called www.improvingsangha.wordpress.com, and on that, on the principal menu, I have shared every single thing we heard that really helped us to get to the point, but have enough to discuss for the rest of our lives. And I will just throw out a few of the things. Prabhupada says discuss his books word by word. If you're going to discuss Prabhupada's books word for word, scrutinizingly, you have a few lifetimes of discussion ahead of you. And if we simply, we read the purport and we go back, we go sentence by sentence, my husband, and in the sentence, as we do the sentence, we analyze the meaning of the word in context. And we may discuss one sentence per our discussion. We don't discuss a purport for our discussion, we discuss a sentence. And we have many lifetimes of discussions to go between us to get through all of it. But, I've got lots of other, none of it from me, all of it just, I'm showing you in the principles, 16 principles where we've clustered together the kind of things we heard from Prabhupada, and we've called it a principle, like scrutinize, hear word for word, hear regularly, repeat the meaning of what you've heard, ask sensible questions. Prabhupada says in 434, 2 things are condemned. Okay, scholars around here, what are the 2 things Prabhupada condemns in 434 Bhagavad Gita? Did you know?
Blind.
Useless inquiry.
Absurd inquiries and blind following. 2 things. So after we've heard, Prabhupada says, now listen, do you agree with Prabhupada? When I joined, because I did philosophy at university, so I have a very philosophical mind. And I was really condemned as a Brahmin trainee. Because it's like, don't be over intelligent. And I was like, how dare you question Prabhupada? And I tried to completely shut down my thinking faculties because it was so unliked by the devotees, unappreciated, disappreciated, condemned by the devotees. It wasn't until I was listening to Prabhupada, by my husband's kindness, I heard Prabhupada say, now you have heard, now what? Ask yourself, what is Swamiji saying? Do I agree or don't I agree? Even if I disagree, discuss. I thought, wow, Prabhupada's given me permission to say, I don't really agree with him. And we do that, and I said, Prabhupada's saying this, I've understood him to mean this, but I don't know if I agree. And then he said, discuss it, look for evidences. Bring it up. And he said, if you do this, you will gradually see it will begin to work. Krishna likes it. He'll start taking away the unwanted, inauspicious things from our hearts. Sorry.
I just want to add, in response to the point that Prabhuji made. What's your name, Prabhu? Huh? Joseph, right. What's the point in discussing once you've got the point? Just let's get on with it now. It's service to do and stuff. But as my wife was saying, the hearing and chanting is itself service. I think one of the problems of our culture has been, at least historically that I know, is that we're wasting time. It's like it's an indulgence. It's to read, to discuss, to spend half an hour or a couple of hours. Associating with the books and discussing them together. Well, wasting time. I should be doing something more constructive. But that is constructive. That's the most constructive thing you can do. This is the process that purifies the heart. And it pleases Krishna. I mean, take, for example, Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy. They knew the point. You can't say they didn't. But they spent the whole night discussing Krishna together. First of all, they had such an attraction and a taste for it, which we don't have. But by doing that, you get the taste. You please Krishna. He removes the unwanted things, and the attraction awakens. So it's the process. It is the essence of the process.
I just had to repeat what you said because unfortunately you didn't have a microphone. So Krishnamurti was making a response to Joseph's question. He was saying one of the things that inhibits us from really discussing in a threadbare way is our culture promotes the idea this is very indulgent. Get out there and do some work. Either do something physically. And we consider just sitting down discussing Prabhupada's books after you've done your half-hour reading, whatever reading you're allocated, to discuss. We consider it almost like we're being indulgent. And my husband was making the point, that's not being indulgent, that is service, and it's the key, most important service. It's the active, you didn't use this word, but it's like the active ingredient that transforms everything else into service. So it's not indulgent to allocate time for doing this. So anyone else? I don't know if I meant to stop. Someone has to stop me, otherwise it'll just go on. Should we just stop? Or
Yeah.
Oh, there's a question from the lady, so we'll get that.
I'm trying to understand if like addictions and why they're there and we're looking for. Obviously, the concept is a pastoral meditation state. So when we're reading,
Can I just ask, how come there's no microphone today?
bit late. It's a bit late now.
When we're reading these books and we are really going into them and reading them, what is it which is found within ourselves which kind of takes away that, that anxiety?
Okay, so as far as I understood, Abby, you asked two questions. You can give it to us, I'm going to get. One is, where do these addictions come from? And then you said, you have a partial light to that. You think it's from past traumas we have in this life. I think you meant in this life. And then you were saying, the second question was, how does studying the books help us? What does the books do that will take away these traumas from us? What will the books help us to understand?
Yeah, because I don't understand it when I do these discussions.
You talk into the microphone.
Sorry. When I do these discussions, I do feel a lot more peaceful and a lot, a lot more complete, if you like. But still, I just want to understand what it is. Is it the trust in Krishna we find within ourselves? Is it what? And then also, I wanted to ask people which also do recover from addictions and traumas outside of Krishna consciousness. What usually is their method?
So you're saying you do find that you feel more peaceful when you do the discussions. You're not quite sure why. What was it about discussion that made you peaceful? But another point you're raising is that we're not the only ones who cure people of addictions. You've got 12-step methods, you've got different methods. They cure people from addiction. So what is it about what they do that makes it work? Okay, do you have a light on any of your questions? From what we've said, actually, because we actually had some evidences that told us. I'm going to bring up one. What about this evidence?
Can I say something to?
Can we just finish this point and then one point at a time? Just let her think.
It's the act of the Lord trying to, seeing our efforts in.
It's Krishna.
Yeah.
It's the activity of the Lord.
Yeah.
Yes. When Krishna is pleased, one of the reasons we feel very peaceful is because Krishna is actually very pleased. Who knows this verse from the Padma Purana? I don't know many verses, shlokas, but I know the ones that interest me a lot. And this is one that I really like. It's, okay, I've forgotten it now.
Yatra Gayanti.
Yatra Gayanti Mad Bhakta. Okay, how does it start? Okay.
Aham tishtami.
Aham tishtami.
Pardon?
Naham tishtami.
Naham tishtami Vaikunte, yoginam hirdaya shiva, tat tishtami narada, yatra gayanti mad bhakta. So Krishna says, I am not in the heart of the yogis, nor am I in Vaikuntha. I mean, is Krishna's son in Vaikuntha? Where is he? He said, I am wherever my devotees are discussing my glories, O Narad. That's why we feel peaceful. Because Krishna is pleased, and he's pleased, and he comes. And we begin to feel that sense of connection. And regarding other societies, they may help you. I know me, for example, I'm trying to kick one bad habit, but the only way I can kick that bad habit is to replace it with another one. And then I have one bad, and then I try to kick that bad habit, and I go back to my previous bad habit. So, you may kick whatever, heroin or drugs or alcohol, but you'll go to another bad habit, watching TV or something. The only thing that can really remove at the very root our desire for sense gratification, unnecessaries. There's necessary to keep one soul together and keep on, be peaceful. And there's unnecessary, we're just being indulgent. The only thing that can remove that from the heart is when the Lord removes it. And he removes it when we discuss his glories. Am I meant to be carrying on or should I just not? Actually, before you add, there was someone else queuing up in the queue.
I just want to answer it. It's about the remedy, you're talking about the anxieties, and the remedy, the discussion and the reading about Krishna is the remedy because it awakes the love for the Lord, and that is the remedy. Like the other people that use different cues and relate to the
Is it picking up? Speak into the
Yeah,
microphone.
close.
Good. But the people online.
Oh, yeah, it's because of the people
Got like
online.
people
I don't know.
In regards to how other people or other societies help cure addictions, in that I've got a little book about 12-step guide. Not that I was suffering from anything, I was reading it, and the first step is a strong, firm faith that you can't do it on your own and that you need the help of God. That's the first step in whenever the people get together trying to overcome their addictions. These 12 steps, the first step is that they can't do it on their own and they need help from God. That's what I read in one of the books.
Yes. And that's one of the things we're going to. I was really thinking about that recently. Did that pick it up? What you said?
Yeah.
No, it's out of battery. Out of battery.
As well, out of batch. Anyway, we've had a few responses to this question, and Joseph just said that even if you go to outside methods, it's the first thing they do is say you can't give up your bad habits without the mercy of God. You have to take shelter. And you know, we have the process, the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Vandanam. I think Vandanam comes next, right? Huh? Padasevanam. No.
Smaranam. Smaranam.
Smaranam. After Smaranam comes
Vandanam.
Vandanam. Yeah, Vandanam comes after Smaranam. And I'm seeing how it works, because recently I am struggling with my own unwanted necessities, and I try to get rid of one, and then the other one comes in place, and I try to get rid of that, the other one comes in, and I was thinking, today, as I was just thinking, you know what? It's impossible. I'm not going to kick it. I have to start praying to Krishna. So one of the many things that, and this has taken me like 22 years of discussing, not just being in the movement, but discussing, to finally realize I'm going to have to start begging him to take them away, because I'm not going to do it. I can come up with my different strategies, but I will find a way around my strategies, and I will meet my addictions whether I like it or not. I have to start praying to Krishna. We begin to realize our complete dependence on the Lord. There is a lady here who would like to say something. Would anyone like to give her the microphone? Oh, it's not working.
It's not.
Okay.
I'll try and speak loud. It's a small question, or a small point. You mentioned about unwanted things, and the fact that we replace one addiction with another.
I do.
The thought that came to my mind was the word is being classed, and actually
The word is what?
the word is being classed. So
Fun.
anything we want instantly,
Yeah.
and we want it fast.
Yes.
So if we give up something, we can have something else, but we want that equally fast. So I'm just thinking, maybe is it the kind of pursuit of speed that we need to eliminate?
Okay. You're saying that our problem with these addictions is that we want instant gratification. Everything, and maybe we should start realizing things can't be that instant. We have to be a little patient. We can't expect instant gratification. We didn't use that phrase. We used the word fast. We want things speed.
Speed,
Yeah. So, but when you use the word speed, in my own words, I say instant. It's got to be right there. I do something and I get instant speed straight away.
I thought I used that word because I've actually come from a long way this morning, and I thought I was speeding, and I was like, why am I so desperate to get there? I should just get there when I should get there safely.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking about all the other people on the roads.
Yeah.
So that was quite selfish of me because I just wanted to get here.
Yeah.
So that was instant gratification in another form,
Yes.
which I wasn't aware of.
Very
So
nice.
it's that awareness.
So you're saying, you use the word speed because that's what you were doing this morning. You were speeding to get here, and you think this is something that we may all be doing in somewhere or another. Thank you so much for your contributions. No one's stopping me, but I think I should stop. So, more glories to Shri Prabhupada.
You're right. Smaranam. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Smaranam Padasevanam. Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmani Vedam.
Grace to somebody down.